What is up, fellas? We are back for another UFC predictions video, this time for UFC Fight Night Royval versus Taira. Sorry if this video is out late and I'm a little bit low energy. Ankh is dealing with a little bit of a mild concussion right now, so I've been dealing with it for like the last week. So yeah, if this video is out late and I'm low E, that is why. So this is gonna be pretty quick and concise, I think. Let's just jump right in, fellas. Kicking us off at flyweight, Clayton Carpenter versus Lucas Roja. Guys, I'm going with Clayton Carpenter over Lucas Roja here. Lucas Roja is a pretty dangerous guy at flyweight, a lot of knockout finishes. He seems to have pretty good power. He's very scrappy. Clayton Carpenter, though, I think is a guy who's pretty well-rounded, but my big thing in this fight is I think Clayton Carpenter does have a grappling advantage here. A pretty good one at that. I just think he's going to be able to not only have more skill in the grappling, but he is much larger and I think much more physically strong and capable, or more strong and more capable than Lucas Roja in this fight. I think Clayton Carpenter can get Lucas Roja to the ground and win minutes pretty easily. I think he's just going to be way too big and way too strong. I think Lucas Roja is a scrappier fighter. I think he has more power in his hands. I think he's a little bit of a better striker at times. But Clayton Carpenter, I think, is going to put more out there to be judged. I think he's going to use his 4-inch reach advantage pretty well, and I think he has an upside in the grappling, and I don't see him getting submitted by Lucas Roja here in this fight. I think I'm going to go with Clayton Carpenter by decision. Yeah. Moving up to bantamweight, Dan Aretta versus Cody Haden. I'm going with Cody Haden here. This could be a potential fraud check calling because just Dan Aretta is a real tough game guy. He's got really good cardio, pretty good pressure. He's got great wrestling. Not the best submission skills in the world, but he can put a wrestling pace on a guy for 3 rounds pretty easily. But Cody Haden impressed me with his fight on the Contender Series. Looked really good there, showed really good striking, really good counter punches, good power as well, and the ability to finish a fight with a submission if he gets that position. So yeah, I just think Cody Haden is a bit more talented all around. I think he's a much better striker than a Dan Aretta. I think he's got a lot more power in his hands. And he's pretty capable in the grappling as well from what I've seen from him. I'm going to trust Cody Haden here in this fight. I think he can win this fight. I think he can knock Dan Aretta down with a big shot, because Dan Aretta, if he can't get the wrestling, he's kind of just a fish on the feet. He really doesn't have much to put out there. Like against Miles Johns, he had nothing. Once the takedowns got stuffed, he was just kind of standing in front of him. And I feel like if he does that against Cody Haden, he's going to have some serious problems. So I'm going with Cody Haden. I think you can hurt him on the feet and drop him, and I think Cody Haden can jump on top and finish Dan Aretta with a sub. So I'm going to go with Cody Haden, club and sub here. I could see a Dan Aretta maybe winning like a close decision as an underdog if that's something you like, but I think Cody Haden's the side here. Moving up to women's strawweight, Julia Pastri versus Cory McKenna. This is an ugly fight, guys. I don't have a great read on this either way. I think I'm going to go with Julia Pastri over Cory McKenna. I just think, I know she took it on short notice, but I think she's just a much better striker than Cory McKenna. A lot more reach, and she had a pretty decent performance against Josephine Knudsen. Like decent-ish. She lost a UD, but she looked all right. She had moments, and I think Cory McKenna might struggle to get her grappling and get this fight to the mat. And on the feet, I think Julia Pastri just washes her. But I could see this fight going either way, because Cory McKenna's had a full camp. Julia Palastri's taken this fight on pretty short notice, but she's pretty decent all around, so I'm just going to trust her to be the better striker and utilize that giant reach advantage that she has, and hopefully not get taken down and controlled on the mat. I'm going to go with Julia Pastri here. I think she's going to get a decision whenever Cory McKenna here in this fight. Moving up to heavyweight, Junior Tafa versus Chris Barnett. Fellas, Junior Tafa is going to beat the shit out of Chris Barnett. I'm going to be honest. I like Chris Barnett. Fun guy, funny guy, great personality for the UFC. I think he's going to get knocked out here in this fight. Chris Barnett has not fought in a really long time. I believe his last fight was against... Who the fuck was it? I can check. Fuck. Jake Collier. I have a concussion. Leave me alone. He took an insane amount of damage against Jake Collier. He almost got finished. Came back and won. Hasn't fought in a long time. He's fucking 38 years old. And man, Junior Tafa, if you're not taking him down, he's really fucking dangerous. He's got really nice boxing. He's got better boxing than his brother. I don't think Chris Barnett's going to shoot a takedown. I think he's going to go out there and try and kickbox with this guy. I think Junior Tafa is just a much sharper boxer with more power. I think he'll finish Chris Barnett, sadly. I hope Chris Barnett wins with all my heart and soul, but I just don't see it, you know? Moving up to welterweight, Thibault Grimbo versus Niko Price. Niko Price is old. His chin's kind of spotty. I'm going with Thibault Grimbo. I think Thibault Grimbo has an advantage on the feet, and I think he's got an advantage in the grappling as well. I think he can finish this fight either way. I think he can catch Niko Price with a big straight punch, or I think he could take him down and submit him or TKO him there as well. Niko Price got a win over Alex Morono. Alex Morono is not... He's kind of a Niko Price in the sense that he's pretty slow, pretty plodding, not super athletic, not super powerful or dangerous in any type of meaningful way. I think Thibault Grimbo is a much more dangerous matchup for Niko Price, especially at this point in his career after all the damage Niko Price has taken. I mean, like, you know, Robbie Lawler knocked him out. A washed version of Robbie Lawler knocked him out. You know, Phil Rowe knocked him out. He beat Alex Oliveira, but he's kind of a bum. Went to decision with Michel Pereira, but recently he just hasn't looked in his best form, and Thibault Grimbo's been putting together a little streak for himself. So I'm going to trust in Thibault Grimbo. I think he's going to be too fast for Niko Price on the feet, and I think he'll catch him with a big shot and hurt him bad. I think he'll probably hurt him, drop him on the feet, and finish him with a TKO to like ground and pound or something. Yeah. Moving up to featherweight, Jonathan Pierce versus Patsabatini. I'm pretty torn on this fight, guys. I don't have a great, you know, hunch on who wins this fight, but digging into their records a little bit, I think I kind of want to go with Patsabatini. Jonathan Pierce is good. He's pretty well-rounded all around. He's got good wrestling, and he's got okay striking. I think he's a better striker generally than Patsabatini. But I actually think Patsabatini is largely a better grappler than Jonathan Pierce, at least positionally. He's able to get submissions very well, and he's able to control guys very well. And Patsabatini, when you look at their records, he's just fought much better fighters, you know, and he's beaten better fighters. You know, he lost to Diego Lopez about a year ago. I don't like the inactivity, but oh well, you know, that loss will happen. Diego Lopez has looked like a world beater. Beat Lucas Almeida. Lucas Almeida looked really good in his last fight. He dominated Lucas Almeida. Got fluke KO'd by Damon Jackson. What can he do? Beat Tucker Lutz, who I don't think he's not the greatest, but he's not terrible. Finished Jamal Emmers, which is a pretty good win. Beat Tristan Connolly, who's okay. Beat Damon Blackshear in 2018. Like, he's got some good wins on his resume against some pretty dangerous guys. Guys who I think are probably a little bit more dangerous than Jonathan Pierce. And Jonathan Pierce, I mean, when you look at his wins, I mean, what, like 40-year-old Darren Elkins, Makwan Amirkhani. Chris Rodriguez is a good win, I guess, kind of. But fucking Julian Erosa fucking rolled him up and beat his ass. So is that good of a win? I don't know. And Jonathan Pierce, for as good as he is in the wrestling, he does kind of leave himself exposed to submissions, and he kind of jumps for position a little bit too much. Or he'll give up a position to go for like a finish or something like that. I think against Patsabatini, if you make any kind of grappling mistakes, he's good enough with the jiu-jitsu, especially if he's not hurt, to get himself into a good position and potentially submit Jonathan Pierce. And I think that's what will happen here. I think Jonathan Pierce will be winning until he gets a little bit too overeager, gives up position, and Patsabatini takes advantage, and I think he can sub Jonathan Pierce in this fight. Moving up to flyweight. This fight's funny. This fight's funny. I want to highlight this one. CJ Vergara versus Ramazan Tamirov. Guys, look at CJ Vergara's record. This guy sucks. This guy is a good fighter. This guy KOs people dead. CJ Vergara is going to fucking die. Like, CJ Vergara is an absolute bottom feeder at flyweight. I mean, he beat Viniscus Salvador, terrible. Daniel Lacerda, terrible. Tatsuro Taira obviously is elite. Clayton Rodriguez, not the greatest. Dominated by Asu Almabayev. Lost to Ode Osborne. He's just the epitome of mid, guys, and he is fighting an absolute fucking murderer. Tamanov is going to knock him out. I don't see CJ Vergara having the skill set to stop Tamanov from flatlining him, honestly. I don't really have any more to break down than that. CJ Vergara is straight buns. If Tamanov cannot get past CJ Vergara, cut him, because CJ Vergara is an absolute bottom feeder in this division. Moving up to middleweight, Abdul Razak Alhassan versus Joshua Fremd. Abdul Razak Alhassan is going to knock out Joshua Fremd. Josh Fremd is pretty buns. He's got okay striking, but that's about it. He's got a little bit of a submission game, nothing crazy. He's not that durable. I think Abdul Razak Alhassan is just going to land a big shot and knock him stone dead. Abdul, should have beaten Cody Brundage, but he was throwing some illegal shots. But he's just a super fast twitch athlete, and Josh Fremd isn't. And I don't trust Josh Fremd's skill set to keep him safe in this fight. I mean, Josh Fremd was getting landed on by Andre Petrosky, who's terrible. Abdul Razak Alhassan should win this fight. He lost to Joe Pyfer. Who cares? KO'd Claudio Ribeiro. I think he's a much more dangerous fighter than Joshua Fremd. Split decision to Joaquin Buckley. Very close fight. Head kicked Alessio Di Chirico straight out of the UFC. This guy is just a fucking demon. You know what I mean? He's just super fucking dangerous. And he's been fighting better lately. Like that Buckley performance that he lost, he looked pretty good over 3 rounds, which normally Abdul's cardio is kind of what held him back a little bit. He is 39, but I mean, look at the fucking guy. He's not your typical 39-year-old UFC fighter. I'll put it that way. I think he's just going to land a bomb on Josh Fremd early. And I think it's just going to shock the system of Josh Fremd. And if Josh Fremd goes down, or he kind of shows that he's hurt or fights scared, which I think he probably will, Alhassan is just going to swarm him. And I think he'll probably get a TKO finish over Joshua Fremd here in this fight. Moving up to welterweight, Daniel Rodriguez versus Alex Morono. Daniel Rodriguez is going to beat the shit out of Alex Morono as far as I'm concerned. Morono gassed and lost a 3-round decision to kind of the ghost of Niko Price. There's no fucking way he's beating D-Rod. D-Rod just put on a really good performance, in my opinion, against Kelvin Gastelum. Looked way better than Gastelum on the feet, honestly. D-Rod's boxing is just super sharp. I don't think Alex Morono is going to go for a takedown or anything like that. I think he's just going to box with Daniel Rodriguez, and I think Daniel Rodriguez is going to beat the shit out of him because he has actual power in his hands and popping his shots. He's got hand speed. He's just a much better boxer. Going from fucking Kelvin Gastelum to Alex Morono, I mean, Daniel Rodriguez should win this fight pretty free. By TKO, I think. Moving up to lightweight, Grant Dawson versus Rafa Garcia. Grant Dawson, for how bad his striking is and how suspect I think his chin is, his grappling is very fucking elite. He's got good takedowns. He's got great control. Like, if he gets Rafa Garcia down, he's not getting back up. He's much bigger than Rafa Garcia. He's got better submissions than Rafa Garcia. Rafa Garcia is a little bit of a dog, though. He is a bit scrappy. He can force a fight, and he can get in there and try and land some shots. And he could maybe hurt Grant Dawson on the feet with a shot, because I don't trust Grant Dawson's chin all that much. But largely, I just think Grant Dawson's going to be able to get the takedowns and control Rafa Garcia, land good ground and pound, go for submissions. I think he's going to dominate this fight on the mat. On the feet, it might be close, but the second Grant Dawson gets his first takedown, it's going to change the entire complexion of this fight. I'm going to go with Grant Dawson. I think he could get a finish here. I'm going to go with the Grant Dawson submission, actually, over Rafa Garcia. That's what I'm feeling. Moving up to welterweight, Chidi Njokuani versus Jared Gooden. I'm going to go with Chidi Njokuani here. This is at welterweight. He impressed me in his last fight by actually having 3-round cardio. I thought the weight cut to 170 was going to fucking kill him. I thought he was going to look terrible as the fight went on against Reese McKee, but he had 3-round cardio out of absolutely fucking nowhere that he's never shown before in his entire fighting career. So, if we have 3-round Chitty, he's going to beat the shit out of Jared Gooden. He's a way better kickboxer. He's way more dangerous. His striking is way cleaner, way more technical. Jared Gooden is a tough, durable guy, and he does have knockout power. But he's going to be the smaller guy here by a lot. He's given up a lot of reach. I think he's given up a lot of speed as well. And, you know, maybe he shoots a takedown. Could get it. Could happen. But I just think largely, I think Chitty Njokuani is just leaps and bounds a better striker than Jared Gooden. I think that's where this is going to largely play out, is on the feet. And I favor Chitty Njokuani in this matchup for sure. Jared Gooden could land a bomb, and maybe Chitty's shit cardio rears its head again, and he starts to wilt as the fight goes on. But after that last performance, after he showed me that he has 3-round cardio at welterweight, I'm going to trust him. I'm going to trust him to get the job done here against Jared Gooden by TKO in like rounds 2, I think. Moving up to our co-main event, Brad Tavares versus Jung Park. This one's tricky, because I want to pick Brad Tavares because, God, this ring light is killing me. I want to pick Brad Tavares because his anti-grappling is so good. He doesn't get taken down. And Jung Park is kind of a guy who gets a lot of his wins by mixing up the striking and the grappling. You know, a lot of his wins are due to his grappling. Like Joseph Holmes took him down and submitted him. Talulin, same thing. Duraev melted him with the grappling. You know, I just don't see him getting down Brad Tavares. Now, Brad Tavares is old. He's taken a lot of damage. He's looked kind of shit with his boxing lately, and he's been finished a couple of times. But my thing is, I don't think Jung Park is the kind of guy to really get a TKO over even this version of Brad Tavares. I don't think he has the power in his hands. I mean, Gregory Rodriguez took him to the 3rd round to get a TKO. Bruno Silva got him with a knee. Duplessis got him with a decision, you know what I mean? Jung Park is nowhere near the power of these 3 gentlemen here. So I don't think he gets him out of there. I'm really torn on this fight, man. Because I think Brad Tavares can win, but his boxing looks so fucking shit against Chris Weidman. That's kind of what's fucking with me, is how bad his boxing looked against Chris Weidman. And Jung Park, low-key. I wonder if I can check this. Just right here. He lost to Gregory Rodriguez, right? He was he's kind of beating the shit out of Gregory Rodriguez in this fight, if I remember correctly. Not really, but I remember, I think he had Gregory Rodriguez hurt pretty bad in this fight. I almost want to pick Jung Park now, because I think Brad Tavares lately has just kind of been, I just think his boxing has looked bad. And granted, I don't think Jung Park's going to get Brad Tavares down, but we've seen guys just go for a single leg and just if they can't get it, just push him up against the cage. I'm looking at you, Mario Bautista, you fucking street urchin. Maybe Jung Park racks up some control time up against the cage, and maybe just, I think he'll have more output than Brad Tavares in this fight. Originally, when this fight was made, I was picking Brad Tavares, but now that I actually really sit down and think about it, I kind of want to go with Jung Park. I'm going to go with Jung Park very hesitantly. I think Brad Tavares is probably the best underdog to pick on this card, because there's a litany of ways this fight goes down. Yeah, I'm going to very slightly lean Jung Park. I think he's just going to throw more out there to be judged, throw more volume, try and mix it up. Even if it's unsuccessful, hey, you'll still get fucking control time, so that helps you win rounds, I guess, in a damage-based scoring sport. But yeah, I'm going to go with Jung Park. I think he's going to barely get a decision here, like 29-28, maybe even a split over Brad Tavares. But I can see Tavares winning a decision as well here. Very tricky fight. Not the highest level fight in the world, but I'm actually kind of excited to see how that one plays out. Moving up to our flyweight main event, Brandon Royval versus Tatsuya Taira. I kind of hate this fight, you guys, because these are my 2 favorite guys in the division right now. I love both of these dudes. And I'm going with Brandon Royval. I'm going with the plus 200 underdog against Tatsuro Taira. Is it because Brandon Royval is my favorite flyweight? Partially, yes. Um, but I have a couple of reasons. Tatsuro Taira, for how good he is, I think a 5-round fight against Brandon Royval, if he can't finish him early, from what I've seen from Tatsuro Taira, is he does kind of the lethality factor of him. He kind of does slow down a little bit as the fight gets deeper. You kind of saw it against Alex Perez a little bit. Where Perez kind of started to work his way into that fight pretty well and was landing good shots against Tatsuro Taira as well, and they were trading. Now Tatsuro Taira, what I did say he has that makes him very lethal is he's got good straight punches, and with his hands he's got really good timing. He's able to time really good straight punches on his opponents, and obviously everybody knows he's got the elite grappling, he's got good takedowns, and he's got really good submissions. Brandon Royval, not the greatest takedown defense in the world, but what he does have is he's got pretty good submission defense. He scrambles really well. Black belt, I believe. And he's just kind of tricky. I think he's a tricky guy to find the submission on. The only guy who submitted him, I think, in the UFC was Pantoja. You know, technically he lost by TKO to Brandon Morono back in the day, but it was like a shoulder injury, you know. Brandon Royval was able to defend takedowns and the grappling really well against Tim Elliott in his UFC debut and actually submitted him, you know what I mean? Submitted Kai Kara-France as well. You know, he's a pretty fucking dangerous guy on the mat, and he scrambles really well. And I think on the feet, I talked about Tatsuro Taira's timing and his straight punches. I think he's going to have a really hard time finding his timing on somebody like Brandon Royval, who throws a lot of unorthodox strikes. Against Alex Perez, it's one thing because he's kind of a guy who crashes forward and throws pretty technical boxing. Brandon Royval is very weird in the way he strikes. You know, he'll just kind of feint and throw a step-in knee. He's done that a few times. He's done that, I believe, against Kai Kara-France, and he knocked out Mateus Nicolau with that weird step knee that he does. He's got tricky elbows as well, and his hands are kind of low. He throws punches from weird angles, and he has infinite cardio. I mean, he trains at elevation. And he's fought 5 rounds. He can fight 5 rounds hard. I mean, you saw it against his most recent fight against Brandon Morono. Kind of shortish notice, went up against a former champion. He attempted like 600 strikes in that fight on short notice. You know what I mean? I just think if Tatsuro Taira doesn't get the finish in like the first 2.5 rounds, I think this fight might start to run away from him a little bit. So I think I'm going to like slightly lean Brandon Royval, especially at these odds. You know what I mean? Like, I see this fight kind of as like a pick'em in my head, so I'm going to go with the big underdog here. I obviously think either guy can win this fight. I can see Tatsuro Taira just being able to get Royval to the ground. Maybe Royval tries to scramble and gives up a bad position, gives up his back or his neck or something, and Tatsuro Taira finishes a choke there. I can see Taira maybe catching him on the feet and submitting him as well. But I can also see Brandon Royval just swarming Taira in like a later round with just an insane amount of volume. Or Tatsuro Taira shoots in and Brandon Royval times him with a knee, which he is very capable of doing. So yeah, it's a tricky fight, but I'm going to lean Royval. I think he's actually going to win a decision here in this fight. Like a 48-47. I think it's going to be a really close fight. This should be a really fun fight for how long it lasts. Both these guys always deliver. But yeah, that's it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.